Okay, well, let's get going. So thank you all very much for joining. It's going to be a very exciting webinar today. We're going to keep it nice and short for you guys so you can get on with your day, but we have some exciting announcements for you all. It's really been a busy day in space, not only today, but just a few days ago. And we're very thankful for you guys to have chosen to join us today during this busy space day. So quick refresher for folks who are new to bluShift. We are a space launch company with the first commercial launch last year of a rocket using a non-toxic carbon-neutral biofuel and providing suborbital and future orbital launch services. Currently, we have a live crowd equity funding campaign on WeFund or WeFunder.com, and we are raising $1 million in our bridge round to complete the testing and development of our full-size Marvel engine. That's the engine that's powered by our proprietary biofuel. So real quick, I think everybody saw the launch today by SpaceX, so big congratulations to them and the crew 5 going to the ISS. Just a remark about a contrast between bluShift and really almost every other rocket company today, or launch company. When SpaceX launched today, that was just over 50,000 pounds of fuel. So that results in something like 160,000 pounds of net carbon dioxide being released today. So it's amazing what they're going to be doing up there with the astronauts conducting new research and experiments to prepare for human exploration. But we're doing it at the sacrifice of our own planet. And when bluShift launches a rocket, when we launch a rocket, there will be a net zero carbon dioxide released by our rocket. And we believe that is the future for space launches as well as for humanity. Other exciting news, yesterday kicked off, if you guys don't already know, if you're not tuned in, kicked off World Space Week 2022. And the theme this year is really appropriate to bluShift. It is space and sustainability. The World Space Week began October 4th of every year. And the reason for that, if for folks that are fans of space history, is that back in October 4th of 1957, the first human-made satellite, Sputnik, was launched. So here at bluShift, we are celebrating space and sustainability every day with our non-toxic carbon-neutral launched vehicles. So check out, for more information on World Space Week, check out worldspaceweek.org. Okay. Now, other great news is that we had our fourth full-size engine test of our Marvel engine back on September 22nd, just a few days ago. It was intended to be a 20-second burn. We had to clip it down to a 10-second burn, but the burn looked very nominal, and it was a much cleaner burn than we've seen in the past. The stability was right on. We were very happy with that burn. But I think most excitingly to the public is that we actually recorded that test with a 360 view camera, virtual reality camera. So if you haven't seen that, please check it out. Lindsay, my chief COS, will be posting that link here in the chat shortly. So this is on YouTube, and what you can do is you can use your phone or actually like a virtual reality headset like the Oculus, and you can actually be next to our rocket engine when it ignites. At first, it's sort of you feel like a fly on the wall, but it's an amazing experience. You can actually see the camera tilt back as we ignite the engine. It's pretty amazing. In other news, we continue some non-dilutive efforts for funding to ensure that our Safe Note investors and other investors are protected as much as possible, including we are applying for NASA EPSCoR RID grants. This is these grants are, the EPSCoR stands for Established Program to Stimulate Competitive Research, and the RID is the Research Infrastructure Development solicitation. So we're working both with the University of Maine on developing a really novel recovery mechanism for our payloads. More on that hopefully in the year to come, and possibly some patentable technology there. We're also worked with the Rue Institute to submit an application Now, RU Institute is a new arm of the Northeastern University. It's here in Portland, Maine, heavily involved in the technology realms. And we're hoping to secure a grant with them to work on additive manufacturing enhancements to our Marvel rocket engine technology. Okay, now for the really good stuff. You know, our work here at bluShift is truly deeply rooted in exploration, space exploration, bringing humanity's curiosity and knowledge forward and outward to beyond our planet. You know, I created this company because I wanted to provide a service that would suit the needs of smaller and more unique payloads who are looking for a specific trajectory or experience in space. So with that, I'd like to introduce you to our newest customer, Northern Lights Space Exploration. This is founded by Charlton Shackleton, whose family history has been rooted in exploration for over 100 years now. We're really excited and proud to be working with Northern Lights Space Exploration. And their novel service is really one that takes humanity to not the sea, but the sea of stars above. Charlton, I'm going to ask you to join me now on screen if you would. Charlton was looking for a launch provider for her small payloads and novel service. And when we connected, I think it felt like a perfect match. But I don't want to steal your thunder, Charlton. So if you please introduce yourself and Northern Lights and what you guys do.
Hi, good afternoon, Sasha. Thank you so much for having us. And it's a true pleasure to be on this webinar with you and your contingency of great supporters. And I'm looking forward to sharing what we're doing with them today. My introduction there. My name is Charlton Shackleton. I'm the managing partner of Northern Lights Space Exploration, which is part of a much larger project, which we have is called the Shackleton Research Trust, which works with providing resources to underrepresented minorities of science. That's our target focus, and that's everything we do really is in that vein to move our society forward and provide opportunities and equality and equitable access to space, the oceans. And what we're really focused on with bluShift is being able to provide those platforms to the stars, like you mentioned. My family history, like you say, you put it really nicely. We've been in the business for a long time. You know, our family before me here has set the bar really high for standards that we got to kind of try to beat and leave nobody behind. And so when we kind of think of that, we want to look at what can I do to pave the forward for my son, who's now 11 months, and what is the world going to look like for him? And we have to be good stewards of the planet. And so that was part of the decision we made with all the other launch providers we could have teamed up with for this project. That was one of the biggest things going back to bluShift, was your commitments to the environment and that zero carbon footprint, and even down to the engineering of how you think about if a bluShift rocket falls back down to Earth and it's in the sea, that the batteries might not harm any sea life because they don't use lithium ion. That level of engineering is what really won us over in this competitive search we had. So I thank you for doing that.
Yeah, thank you.
So one of the cool projects here that we're going to be starting out with on the bluShift platform is the what we're calling Cars Sinus 1, which is Latin for beloved ashes. So we're looking at using the bluShift platform and going up to the stars with it and suborbit and performing a memorial service in the Northern Lights. And using the bluShift platform, we have we're working on trying to figure out that right method to get the VR experience, because we want to be able to conduct that memorial service, share it with our loved ones back down here, and let people really experiencing their loved one, whether it be a people or a pet, let them see them released gently into the Northern Lights. It's a very intimate experience and something that we've never thought was a reality until today. This is science fiction, but we're making it a science fact. And
super cool and really novel, and just an incredible connection of 3 different technologies really all at once.
It really is. And I think that your supporters would be great fans of the stewardship that we're thinking about. How do you do a memorial service in a way that is good for the environment or less impactful? It's something novel. And if COVID has taught us anything, being able to share an experience like we're doing here in this webinar with people from all over the world. If we can't necessarily travel to be somewhere, you could at least be part of something.
Yeah.
And that's a very big part, as in the death with dignity, or just remembering somebody in a special way. With that, we'd love to direct people to visit us at Northern Lights Space Exploration, which is nlse.space. That is our website, where you'll be able to either reserve a seat on the first launch, which comes in at $99 refundable, or if you want to be part of our test team membership, which gives you access to the behind the scenes look of what it takes to be able to do this project, and everything from some of the design engineering to some of the test launches that you'll be having to conduct. We'd like to invite people to join that test team membership, where they get to give that feedback, try the VR system, look for bugs, and really be part of the team. It's a great Christmas gift. I know that's just right on the corner. I can't believe it, but that membership is coming in at $750. And to be able to have a memorial service in a VR environment in space for $750 is a very value-minded opportunity that we're excited to offer.
It's funny. Well, I've had the fortune to kind of pre-release to friends and family what you guys are working on, and the connection to bluShift, and be able to launch ashes of either loved ones or pets to space. And I think pretty much everybody I talked to about it has said that makes a lot of sense. I would love to do that. So I've been really surprised by sort of the enthusiasm, and just there's the novelty and it's just the methodology in both a sustainable way and also in a very respectful way, and stretching humanity's the memorial service to the stars, but doing such a touching way, and it's really sparked a lot of interest from folks. So I'm excited by it. I've got to say, Charlton, it was not one of the most expected things when you first arrived at our doorsteps. I think our focus was so much on research and development, and it continues to be. But it's amazing. I think this is really a maturing of the industry, where you see things you never expected to happen in such a well, in this case, space. And it's really neat. And I feel really proud that we're able to support your guys' services and to bring this forward. So with that, I'd like to open up the session to questions and for Q&A session. So if you have questions about bluShift or questions about Northern Lights, space exploration, please post them in the chat room. We'll answer them. Be happy to answer questions that you might have heard from today's talk, or questions that go beyond today's talk and what we're working on. Feel free to open up. And Lindsay will be joining us and moderating the questions, bringing them forward as you type them in. So feel free to go ahead and shoot away. One of the things that I think you were going to mention is there's some exciting developments, Charlton, possibly around working even outside of the United States for launch services, and to really access the Northern Lights on a consistent basis. I don't know if you want to give any more hints around that. Yeah.
I can speak a little bit about it. So I'm really excited to be part of the Maine delegation flying next week to Reykjavik to the Arctic Circle Assembly. It's a global conference with heads of state from all over the region. Probably about 40 different countries are sending delegates, about 3,000 people in attendance. And we have some very interesting meetings lined up already to secure some future launch sites in the Arctic. And that will be a bluShift product that we'll be proud to be using. So I think we're going to have to stay tuned after the conference. It'll give us another reason to come back and share some awesome news with your contingency here.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that besides the cool factor, the novelty, the sort of exhilarating experience that this would mean for members of your service, on the bluShift side, selfishly speaking, for us, it's actually an incredible win. So Charlton's organization has provided us a letter of intent for launching 5 suborbital vehicles, and that's at $1.4 million each. So this is really an incredible opportunity for us. And of course, our expectations and hope and desire is that it goes well beyond those 5 launches, but many more, and every year. And it becomes a regular option for people looking to do memorial services in a novel way. So thank you, Charlton. This is an incredible opportunity. And thank you for choosing to fly with bluShift. And we're looking forward to perhaps even getting some of your members to join us for the very first maiden voyage of Starless Rogue as early as late next year. Lindsay, I don't know if you had any questions you want to pop in, or before we come close to wrapping up the webinar session.
Yes, yeah. Bobby asks, did the ashes stay in space or do they return?
That is a great question.
Yeah, so the launch will be occurring suborbitally initially. The plans are to provide in Starless Rogue will be suborbital, so they will come back down and be coming back down over the ocean. Orbitally, maybe Charlton, I'm revealing too much, but we are planning to also offer an orbital service in the years to come. Perhaps I'm revealing too much, but that is
All right.
really been the conversations.
And then Anonymous asks, is Charlton a descendant of Sir Ernest Shackleton of the Endeavour?
The Endurance, but yes, that is the family that I was born into, and they set the kind of bar really high. So I'm working really hard. So in the first Shackleton in space is one of my goals.
Very cool.
What, I think it's Stavros. What do you require regarding facilities to have a launch place in Europe?
Yeah, so for Starless Rogue, suborbitally, it is pretty nominal. We are trying to make our launch vehicle as mobile as possible. And so it's a launch rail system. I believe that we need a launch rail, boy, dance between feet and meters all the time. A launch rail system of about 72 feet. Our intent is to bring that to wherever we're launching. So it would be our own launch system, containerized, and we'd move it to wherever we want to launch from to provide services like the Northern Light services and others who are looking to do research. So it's pretty nominal. The supporting launch logistics operational gear can be stored in yet one other container. So we're looking at 2 to 3 containers that we would bring onto site. It's pretty, the nice thing is we can actually carry our fuel with us in the rocket at the time, because it's non-explosive, non-toxic, and here in the United States, you could literally carry it down the road and not need a special DOT rating for it. We wouldn't do that with the oxidizer, but so I think in terms of launch logistics in Europe, it's just a supplier of our oxidizers, the major thing we need.
And Roger asks, is the approach of bluShift or of your rocket development one of rapid iteration while possibly more frequent failure, or the approach to develop a design and work towards that as the SLS or some other approach?
So great question. I can say that we have built failure into our financial modeling. I think one of the fortunes of having others gone before us in terms of launch is you can see the failure rate and you start knowing what that rate looks like early days. So building that into our financial model has been important. But we're taking a slightly different approach in that we are not going immediately, for instance, for orbital launch services. We're doing a stepwise approach both in our technology and in the services. So that's why we're doing suborbital first, which is just one of our Marvel engines, which really simplifies our launch operations. It significantly simplifies our guidance and navigation. And it just makes it a lower cost of entry for us to start providing a service commercially. And it allows us to develop our, really sharpen our teeth on the manufacturing, customer service, the sales side. And then it allows us, the next stepping stone up is to our orbital launch services, which is our same engine, just more of them put in parallel. And gives us time and distance to build up both our engineering capabilities, our customer service and sales capabilities, and regulatory interaction capabilities. So Failure is planned for and is expected. But we're not immediately like you might have seen with Astra, where you're going to go right for that rocket you want and fail hard. I think I think that they have been unfairly judged for failing, and because the failure is part of this failure, and iterating over and over. It's a very important part of what we all do. That said, we're trying to do as much of our failures on the ground as everybody is. With our test site. For instance, we have done over 240 engine tests, hybrid rocket engine tests, since our inception. So, which is I think an impressive amount in our world. It's definitely harder to do that with an actual launch vehicle, but you really get to figure out where those points of possible failure are and plan around them. So the short answer is yes, we're planning for failure. Are we trying to push it really hard and fail really fast? No. Are we trying to go really slow and be governmental? I won't say any particular agency about it. No, I think we're trying to hit the middle ground of doing things in a stepwise fashion, technologically and regulatory wise, and also logistics wise, and not kind of overwhelm our organization and capabilities, so that we can see mistakes before they happen as much as possible. Long-winded way of answering that question.
And John is wondering if the Northern Lights service won't start until we get to Steuben. Is it related to Steuben at all, or would you be launching from somewhere else?
Steuben is well, I'll let Charlton. I'm going to zip my mouth and let Charlton answer that.
So to get to the Northern Lights product that we want to launch, there's going to be plenty of trials. There's going to be plenty of tests that have to be conducted between now and our goal is the end of 2023. So there's a lot of things that have to happen between now and then. And I'll let Sasha answer where they're planning on doing these tests and how they're doing them. But I could speak from like our test team membership. That's where you'd be able to go out and be a part of that and get that inside feedback and watch our journey with bluShift to get to where we need to be.
Yeah, and for us, Steuben, by the way, for folks who don't know, Steuben is the town off of which we will be launching from. And our expectations is that, we have a long regulatory process to go through with the FAA. We anticipate that we will not be launching initially from Steuben in the next year here in Maine, but instead be launching most likely from Wallops, Virginia, and the NASA spaceport there initially. And they have a very good, well-seasoned grounds for launching suborbitally as well as, beyond. So, but I hope that it's not out of the realm of opportunities for bluShift to not only launch in countries that are access the Northern Lights more readily, but also provide space launch memorial services to folks nationally here. And that's an opportunity not only in the short term, but I hope in the long term. May not be over the Northern Lights, but being launched into space in general, I think is a neat, it's a really novel way of doing a memorial service.
Sean is asking, is the first launch still planned for Virginia or Maine? And is it late 2023 still?
Yeah, so the plans are currently the A plan is to continue forward with working with the folks at Wallops, Virginia. And we've been in communications with them. I know the engineering team has another meeting this week. And so that is our A plan, and it's a bit, it all kind of depends on the timing of the funding. This round this $1 million round, we're looking to wrap up actually within the next few months, is to complete our engine testing, and then we'll be pushing on to our seed round, which is a $6 to $10 million raise. So, and that will fully fund the launch vehicle, wrapping up the regulatory process, both with Wallops and the FAA on our launch site in Steuben, Maine. So I don't expect we'll be launching from Steuben, Maine until earliest 2024. There is an off chance that we would launch, do a very low altitude launch off the shores of Maine somewhere in 2023 as one of those very basic test flights and proving flight that we would do, and that Charlton's members would be able to participate in, or Northern Lights. Yeah.
So then I think you just answered the next question, which is what's the time frame for beginning the Ashes to Space program?
Yeah, Charlton, do you want to?
Yeah, so we're taking reservations now for $99. Those are completely refundable. Just saves you a seat on the main prototype flight to the Northern Lights. But as being that member, you get to come along the way and still have the seat. We're hoping to start having active use of the memberships content starting in the first of the year, going between now and the end of the year. There's a lot of regulatory things that are being wrapped up. And then starting in the first of the year, that's when we're really going to be active on communicating, testing, and putting out things to different steps that have to be all compiled to get to the point where we're launching. I think Sasha alluded that some of these test flights will happen over maybe the second or third quarter of 23. That's within our time frame, and then our goal would be to do our first prototype launch into Northern Lights from an Arctic location in the first quarter of 24.
Yeah, and I guess one of the, for folks who aren't super familiar with bluShift, you know, our concept of operations is to be launching off a platform at sea. And so this bodes well for not only launching off the coast of Maine, but off of other countries to provide our services. Again, the primary goal originally was to do it for research and product development, products and technology to be used in space. And I can understand how thrilled we are to be doing something that's different than what most others are doing. So we're really thrilled to do this. But it also means that we can be very mobile. We can provide our services in other countries as needed.
Yeah, on that, I'm going to skip down to Michael's question. I'll come back to the other two, but it sounds like you can launch your rocket from almost anywhere. Is that correct? Like, could you go to a very large parking lot and launch?
Well, so the short answer is no, you can't. It's not that easy, unfortunately, and unless there's countries that have very lax regulatory laws. And the truth is when we as a launch company go to another country, we're actually still beholden to the FAA in the United States. So so the short answer is it gives us great flexibility. Could we do it from our parking lot? It would have to be a very big one, or it would have to be a parking lot where we probably need a really good radius of ensuring that nobody's around, and where we're launching off to it fits the characteristics of our flight and to ensure safety. So safety is a very big, important part of what we do, what any launch vehicle company does. And the regulatory body, in this case, the United States, the FAA, I mean, that's what they're about, is ensuring human safety. And that's not just for airplanes and drones, but for rockets too. And so for that reason, we probably couldn't do just any old parking lot. If it was a parking lot that was in the middle of the desert, maybe, yeah.
All right, we have just two more, or maybe three. How many Marvel engines are needed for an orbital vehicle?
Sure, 8 are needed for the orbital vehicle. Orbital vehicle is called Red Dwarf. That's 7 on the first stage and a single Marvel engine on the second stage.
And then Joshua asks, how do you feel about the possibility of being the first orbital hybrid rocket?
Very excited. It's a race. We have competition. In fact, we have competition in other countries. I think the competition in the United States isn't so high with hybrid vehicles. There's a strong focus on liquid fuel rockets in the United States. But outside the United States, I think we have quite a bit of competition. So fingers crossed, and double fingers crossed for being the first, not only hybrid rocket orbitally, but the first one doing it with a non-toxic carbon neutral biofuel. So how do I feel? Frankly excited, but also anxious. And there are not enough hours in the day to do everything we want to do. If somebody could quickly invent another 5 to 6 hours, would be really helpful. We have a lot to do, and we're pushing very, very hard.
All right, and Roger asks what arrangements have to be made beforehand to launch at sea, logistically, legally, politically?
Charlton, you've been touching into that outside of our country, so maybe you want to talk a bit about that kind of realm, and I
It's,
can talk about some of the others.
It's very interesting, because when these laws were written for many years, especially from the US for ITAR and some of these other regulatory compliance things, they never really were built around the concept that civilian space companies would be not only existing, but then having to operate within these parameters that were really designed for government entities to operate in. I've had lots of conversations with heads of state and ambassadors in DC and abroad about the willingness to have a platform like this, especially launched at sea, or getting support from the mainland and launching in international waters. There's a lot of different things that have to be considered, but it's generally been very warm, and people are excited by the fact that, that there are opportunities being presented that 20 years ago, 10 years ago would have just been a dream on a corkboard somewhere. Now we're actually having hard and fast conversations. I've had a lot of great support from the Department of State, especially at the embassy level and in the countries that I've spoken to, and as well as from ambassadors in DC for these host countries, being warmly welcoming me into their office, which is always a great idea. And it's going to be an interesting road that we're going on, but we are getting a lot of support from the US government and the US Senate, and to keep exploring these ideas. And then when a roadblock hits, let's look at it proactively to address the regulatory concerns and look at waivers or look at other safeguards that can fulfill the mission, but allow us to actually not stifle innovation.
And I think one of the things that I've seen in these conversations that I've been hearing about, which is similar to the conversations we've been having here in Maine, is the concerns about the environmental effects, the concerns of, there's a lot of association with rockets. You think of these very, very large rockets, which we're not. But I think what has made it feasible for us to do it here in Maine, and I think is opening the doors in other countries, is the fact that we're doing it with really a green fuel, non-toxic propellants that is frankly less contaminating the boat than the boats that will helping us retrieve the rockets as we reuse them from the waters, let alone the fishing boats and pleasure boats on the ocean. So I think without that, I think there would be a lot more friction than we're seeing. And I'm hopeful. It's also setting the tone for how other rocket companies and other launch vehicle companies see themselves. It's like, not only do we need to be more responsible about releasing carbon into the atmosphere and ensuring that there's a neutrality to it, or really decreasing that footprint, but think about the chemicals we're using. This hits life on our planet, and it's a delicate planet. Well, how are we treating it?
Well, like I go back to earlier in our conversation, I just reiterate how important it is to me is, let's say there's a hull loss. I hope there's never a hull loss, but if there is one, I could sleep soundly knowing that the components that you've engineered or designed, that if they're sitting in the ocean, they become a fish habitat, and there's no lithium ion batteries on board or NiCad, which are going to cause harmful effects to marine life.
Yep.
The ambassadors that I've spoken to and the decision makers and stakeholders, when I tell them that part of why we chose bluShift as our launch provider, it makes them stop and think, wow, the level of engineering and the thought process to the environment is there. It's not just a name only, but when you look at that level of detail, that's why they are continuing these conversations with us.
Here. We are fundamentally looking to change how, probably the last bastion of transportation, that has not been affected really by environmental concerns. And I think bluShift is having that effect already.
Well, that's all for questions, and we're a little over time, so I think that might be a wrap.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Charlton, so much. Thank you, Lindsay, and thank you to everybody who attended today. We're looking forward to doing more engine tests here in the upcoming weeks, and we'll be sharing that live with you folks, so please tune in. And if you're interested in becoming an investor, or if you're already an investor and looking to interested in upping up your investment to support our engine test, so we can wrap these up in the next couple months, go to wefunder.com/bluShift Aerospace, and that's blue without an E, and join our team. And of course, check out Northern Lights, NLSE.space. Did I get that right, Charlton?
Yes, sir.
If you're interested in becoming a member of his organization. So thank you all very much and have a wonderful day. See you again soon.